everyone. This is Bethany Meadows. Welcome to Time to Thrive. In today's episode, we are thrilled to sit down with Barry LaBov, founder and CEO of LaBov Marketing Communications and Training. Barry is a recognized expert in employee engagement, leadership development, and corporate culture with decades of experience guiding brands to achieve remarkable internal and external success. Through his innovative strategies, Barry has built a career helping organizations inspire teams, enhance customer experiences, and drive company growth by making culture a competitive advantage. With a legacy of impactful campaigns and a deep understanding of the nuances of brand storytelling, Barry's insights are invaluable for leaders looking to ignite passion and purpose within their teams. I'm really looking forward to Barry's perspective on how companies can inspire, engage, and grow by focusing on what truly matters within their organizations. Welcome to the show, Barry.
Thank you, Bethany. Bring it on. Let's have some fun.
All right. I love that attitude. All right. So as I mentioned, we have our super random questions. So I need you to pick a number between 1 and 5. And
3. I want the number 3.
That is the most often picked number, I will tell you.
Darn.
What is something you love that is vintage?
That is vintage. I love vintage wine. I love wine. I think wine is great. And vintage wine that's got a little bit of age to it is a little smoother, a little tastier. And one reason I love it is I have collected wine. And so in many cases, I have some wonderful vintage wine that I have never tasted, but the plan is to sell it.
Oh, to sell it. The plan to taste it at some point.
No, the plan for the vintage wine, I've had a lot of wonderful vintage wine that I've collected with my daughter. We have a company together that does that. And we have never tasted that wine. We have sold it. And that's the plan on that wine.
It's an investment.
Yeah.
All right. I always like to ask people to share a little bit about their founding story. Like, how did you get inspired to start your company?
I never wanted to run a company. I did not want to have anything to do with business or selling. I was in a rock band and I had led the rock band, and unknowingly, I was actually a business leader running a tiny little business called a rock band. I had been brainwashed growing up by my mother, whose father was a really strong entrepreneur. And she kept telling me as a little kid, oh, you're going to love business and you're going to love to sell. And I go, I hate business. I hate selling. And then what happened? I then got into this funny little business called the jingle business, which are those irritating little musical ditties, and started to do that. And I thought, gee, that's interesting. Then tragedy struck for me in my life. My father passed away. So I had a moment where I thought, I'm not going to live forever. I ought to do what I want to do and what I believe in. And I thought, I'm in a rock band. I'm doing these jingles. What should I do? And I gave myself permission to pursue business, the jingle business, and that grew into marketing and communications. I ended up selling the jingle business, actually.
Fantastic. I'm so glad. That's what an interesting story. So you're a musician as well.
I am. I have had songs
that comes in.
Yeah, I've written songs that have sold well under 1 million copies. But yes, I'm a musician. I've written songs. They've been on the charts. I've had a few rock videos that my band did, things like that. It was a great experience. It was a truly unique, creative opportunity to express myself.
Well, one of the things you do in your company is to foster corporate culture.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you believe culture is so important for companies to get right?
The one thing my company focuses on is the word differentiation. And that's a tough word. It's 6 syllables, 15 letters. A lot of people cannot even pronounce it. We wrote a book called The Power of Differentiation. And the subtitle, Bethany, is what it's all about. It's win, W-I-N, win hearts, minds, and market share. And I believe you have to do it in that order. You have to win the hearts of your people. You get into their heads then, they go, okay, this makes sense. This is really smart. And then you know what? the customers get it. They feel it from your people. They go, wow, these people care. I think it's critically important to have a team that believes in what they're doing and actually feels like what they are is significant. I feel like I'm significant as opposed to I'm just another cog in the machine. So that's why I love it. I think it's incredibly important that our people believe and have meaning in what they do.
Yeah, this is a good segue into my next question because I wanted to ask you about employee engagement, team engagement. That's something that can be hard sometimes to get right, especially in some industries where it's a bit of a grind, or maybe there's a lot of remote workers and just getting that gel with everybody can be more challenging. Can you speak more to some of those factors on employee engagement and how we can be successful there?
I think employee engagement is maybe the most difficult role that the leader needs to tackle. And I believe that's whether you have a 2-person company or whether you have 20,000, because it's so easy for people to be skeptical, to assume that the leader is making tons of money and doesn't care. And it's not their fault. It's because that's what's in the media. That's what's in movies. You know, everybody sees these things and laughs at how stupid leaders are, how evil leaders are. They're shocked at that. So I think we have to realize that not once a year, not once a quarter, but every day is your opportunity to express what we're about here at the company, why what we're doing actually has some uniqueness and distinctiveness to it. And it actually is good for mankind, because most of the things we're doing are good, and celebrate that with our people so they can feel like what they're doing is valuable. Because otherwise, if you think about it, Bethany, why in the world, if a person feels they're just another person doing something that doesn't matter, why do we expect them to care? Why do we expect them to do a good job? Why do we expect them to stay at that job? Why do we expect them to invite friends to join in? We're crazy if we do. We have to give them reasons every single day.
What are some of those reasons? What are some things that we can do that helps create that engagement? I'm very practical, tactical.
Yeah.
So I like that.
No.
Give me a few ways.
All right. Every single time that you as a leader are addressing either the entire company or a group of individuals, make sure you're sharing what the purpose of our company is. And you may say, oh, that's crazy. But no, if you're working on something and somebody's saying, I don't know what we're doing here, blah, 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 say, remember, we're all about such and such. And the reason this client came to us is that she or he really feel they need help in this area. So we need to help them. Okay, so things like that, we have to, as far as employee engagement, we have to let employees know that we truly, genuinely care. So Bethany, here's an example. If you're running a factory, make sure it's safe. You say, what tactical stuff? Make sure it's safe. Make sure if your children were working in that factory, you would say, hey, I feel great about it. If you do not have a safe environment, physically safe, as well as emotionally safe, of course, but physically safe, there is no reason for that employee to care. How can they be engaged if they think their life could be threatened because you're too cheap or lazy to make sure a product or machine is working properly? So those are basics. I also think we got to understand our employees are not looking for highly complex programs to please them. I think it's more basic. It's, do you care about me genuinely? Are you showing that? Do I have a safe environment? Have you expressed to me what we're all about and what role I play? And if you're doing those things as a leader, you're doing better than most.
Yeah. And as what I talk about in the brand world, it's the little things that often are most remembered and have the most impact, because we can expect the big thing. We expect to have a safe working environment. So maybe we just don't appreciate it when we have one, but maybe we don't expect for management to notice when we do something out of the extra mile for a customer and things like that. And just, I think overall, just like for people to feel appreciated. And I say I appreciate you quite a bit to my team because I do,
Mhm.
and it's genuine. I do appreciate them.
Yeah, you have to identify acts that people are doing, even if they're basic and simple, and you have to praise them. And if you don't, you're losing an opportunity to reinforce what you want. And it sounds very basic. If any of us are out there and we go, oh, I'm too busy to do that, I'm too busy to run around and stop and tell people they did this well, then you're going to be even busier because you're going to be cleaning up messes all the time. So you got to make a decision. Are you in the moment and don't have time for these people? Or are you going to stop and say, hey, hold on a minute. Bethany did a great job on this. I'm going to praise her. I'm going to let everyone hear it. And anytime anybody else does something like that, I will praise them.
Yeah, another area of specialty that you do, and I was excited to have you on the show because I feel like your approaches are not as common. Most marketing communications companies are not approaching things the way that you are. And one of those areas of specialties is the way that you create alignment within organizations. And so, can you talk a little bit about your approach to aligning teams around purpose and or the vision of the company? We touched on it slightly, but maybe dive into that a bit more.
Well, in our search for the differentiation of a company, we will conduct what we call a technical immersion. So let's say it's a factory. We'll go into the plant itself and we will identify specific things they're doing. It could be a process, it could be a machine they're utilizing for something, it could be a brilliant design. And we will identify those, and with collaboration with the client, of course, we will then identify and name them and start to promote them internally. And here's why I'm bringing that up. Much of what is going on within a company that seemingly is small or a little strange is actually the magic of what the company's about. And once we start to identify those things and make sure we don't change those two, three, four, five things, that is really at the heart of why many of your people are there. That's what starts to align them. The fact that we take extra steps to do this and that, the fact that we created this new process that we put all of our products through before we let it out the door, that's part of why people came there and they had pride when they came in. Our danger as entrepreneurs is we'll get rid of some of those things. So what I try to do with our clients, Bethany, is identify the good things they're doing, the three, four, five magical things, and then get their teams aligned around those things to say, you know what, this is who we are. This is why we're unique. And by the way, I'll share one thing that the audience may enjoy, and that is these differentiations are not always superiorities. It doesn't mean that you're superior in 3 to 5 ways, but it does mean you do it a certain way for a certain reason because it means so much to you as a company to take care of your customers that way. Now, when your people feel that kind of heartfelt sentiment and they understand we're actually doing something with purpose, it aligns them far better than, hey, everybody, our stock price went up and we're making a lot more money, at least the executives are. So that's why we're trying to make sure that we have everybody involved, every single person involved in what we're doing. And if we don't have that, I'm not trying to make it sound like a pipe dream. If our people don't feel, number one, they can affect things at the company to make them better, and if they don't feel like, hey, they share in them, why should they do any of them?
Area that is one of my favorites too is storytelling. And just how that plays a role in leadership and employee engagement. Do you have a kind of a success story around storytelling that you could share with us?
Yes, I do. I think the big message I want to share with the audience is storytelling is great, but it has to be differentiated. It has to be authentic. So as an example, I was just talking with a podcaster yesterday and he said, hey, isn't it great to do a story about your company? He said, like my company, I could say it was started by two people that were married and then 40 years ago, then they sold it to someone else. And Now they have a big factory. And I said, okay, but I said, that's not an interesting story because it doesn't tell me anything unique. Tell
Right.
me about what their drive was. So here's an example. I was working with an ambulance company, and one of their people, I said, okay, what's your story? And he said, we were founded 50 years ago, and we have a big factory with lots of equipment, and we put out about 300 ambulances a month. And I said, okay, that's a story. But here's where I want us to go, Bethany. The real story, once we learned it, was, yes, 30, 40 years ago, 3 paramedics founded this company because they wanted to build the safest ambulance on the market. And what they have done is pioneered over 25 different innovations that are patented. They have, best we can guess, saved hundreds of thousands of lives with those innovations. That's what their company's all about, safety through innovation. All right, now you start to go, okay, that's interesting. And here's what I'll add to it. That story does not say they're the cheapest. So it doesn't say, hey, we're the cheapest. And it doesn't say we never break down, that we're perfect. But it does say what's important to us is safety, innovation. And we understand the industry because we were started by paramedics. To me, that's a beautiful story. That says to me, if I want a safe ambulance, not the cheapest, if I want the safe ambulance, I will turn to them.
And part of the challenge, I think, for a lot of business owners is the hardest thing to write is your own story.
Sure.
That's why it's best to get someone else to write your bio for you or your brand story. So what are some ways that you can pull that out? If you're a small business owner, maybe you can't afford to hire an agency like yours or mine to do that for you. What are some tips for getting that story out?
Talk to your clients who love you and to your most loyal employees and ask them one question. What should we not change? What should we never change here? And listen closely to what is said. So I mentioned that ambulance manufacturer. Very possibly, if you would have asked their customers, they would have said, look, never change how safe these are. These are the safest ambulances on the road. Never change that, and never change your innovations because you always have something new going on. I'm saying learn what they don't want you to change. So that's my secret I always share with people. Because if you say, hey, tell me what we do good, they go, your price is good, and you're a good value, and you're really nice people. Okay, that's boring.
And that's everybody too.
That's everybody else. And the other thing, here's how you test your story. If you write your story down and then you change the name of the company and you put your competitor in there, is the story still the same? Meaning, would you say, it's our competitor? Yeah, it makes sense. I work with a hospital and it's a great healthcare network. And years ago, they brought us in and we took their number one competitor's ads and we took the name of the competitor off there and we put our client's name on there. And then we took our client's ads and we took their number one competitor's name off there. And I would put the number one competitor's names on their ads. And what happened was they walked in, we said, okay, what do you guys think of that? And they looked at their ad with the competitor's name on top of it. And they say, yeah, that's what they always say. And I said, okay, here's your ad. They looked at the ad that was really their competitors, but it had their name on it. And they go, yeah, isn't that great? I go, we switched the names. You guys are saying the same things. And all of a sudden you go, oh, look for 1, 2, or 3 things that make you unique, not 100. Don't try to be all things to all people. And don't think you need to be superior. This is the way I approach myself. So if I'm you, Bethany, say, look, this is my approach when I look to helping customers. I do this, that, and this is how I do it. And okay, so what happens is people go, okay, Bethany goes about it that way. Now, somebody else could come in and say, no, I do it this way, but at least they know where you stand. So that's what I would say. Look at your uniqueness. Look at what you do that has some distinctiveness to it. Otherwise, it's boring and nobody's going to remember it.
One of the other things we try and do is attach a story around their pain point, the customer pain points, or match up what the customer is looking for with qualities in the brand story. And a quick example of that, we were doing we were doing biographies for executives at a bank. And these are bankers, they're working with business owners and so on. And so we would interview them to find out all these unique things about them. And so in one example, we found out that he was a pro tennis player at a college, coming out of college, and he played in Japan and all over the world. And so he was competitive, he was an athlete. And then so we talked about the discipline that it takes to be an athlete. You talked about
Yeah.
those kind of qualities and how that makes him a better banker. So I think thinking about your customer too, instead of just telling the story as it is, but actually framing it around your customers is good too. Let's talk about internal communication. I think this is something a lot of companies don't do very well at all. They might throw out a newsletter here and there, or there's a town hall every now and then when everybody's in trouble. But what can we do to communicate better internally? Because I think we've talked about it through this episode. If your employees feel like they're part of the process, if they're engaged, their productivity, their commitment to the brand is much higher. And internal communication plays a role in that.
Yeah, my 3 steps are fast, frequent, and informal. Fast, frequent, and informal. So what that means is don't try to come up with the most beautiful internal newsletter. Don't try to send out this incredible opus whenever you're ready to send it out. Instead, do something that's consistent, informal, not a big deal. Again, we've used this word, but sincere, authentic, and do it often so that people know where you stand. Nothing perfect. Don't do anything great. Like my company's got an internal university. We're a small company. So we have an internal university that our employees learn from and will be certified in when they go through different modules. It's not something similar to what we would do for some of our multi-billion-dollar clients, but it's really good. It's fast. It's informal. They get frequent updates. They get to learn a lot. And that's what people need. We don't need formality. We don't need something that's a gorgeous design. Nobody cares. They want to know, do you care?
One of my favorite questions to ask guests, especially those that are leaders in their field, what are some of the emerging trends that you see coming in the next 3 to 5 years? The world is changing overnight, it seems. Every couple of months, the technology advances, the world just changes. Where are you feeling that trend, and how are you shifting your company around them?
There are a few things I'm seeing. Everybody's going to talk about AI. I think AI has some very positive attributes to it. It can help on brainstorming and very quick creative generation. I think the bad part of it is people being lazy and utilizing it to craft their entire communication and all of a sudden losing all originality to it. I think that's bad. I think also the potential of using it again, lazy or however you want to call it, is also dangerous because there is plagiarism. So you could go spit something in there, get it spit out, throw it out there, and then somebody says, hello, that's exactly my copy, and that is my slogan, and you stole it from me. And you could be innocent in that you don't know that, but you're not innocent in that you did use AI. So I think that's dangerous. I look at this trend that I believe is important. I certainly see on a day-to-day basis for my company and that is our customers want somebody that understands business. They want somebody that is a trusted consultant, advisor, et cetera, who is not saying yes and giving them a big smile and laughing and giggling. They want somebody they can turn to because the clients we work with are often understaffed. They have a lot of goals. They don't have enough people to tackle them all, and they need someone who is an extension of their business. So they need somebody they can trust. So yes, there are plenty of specialists, plenty of digital companies out there, but the trend I see is that there are many companies that are going, okay, I don't have enough people. I need somebody that will take on some of these things that we cannot get to.
Yeah. I think your point to AI too is that now everybody thinks that they can write copy or that they can do marketing using AI tools or things like that. The thing is, you can use the tool, but if you don't have the knowledge base yourself, that's reflected in the result and the outcome. So
Right.
it's important for us to, as business owners, to be in a learning mindset all the time and know this stuff, know the principles of marketing that goes behind the foundations. So when we're entering things into AI, we're actually using things in that process that are subsequent.
I agree with you. One example, Bethany, is logos. You can spit out 40 logos out of AI in a minute, and they look okay. The thing that I think is important is, in that one case, as an example, a logo is supposed to be uniquely yours. It should tell your story. It
Right.
should be something that others don't have. It should stand out because it is unique. And AI will spit out very competent looking mediocrity quickly. And the problem I have is that if a client says, hey, I can go use AI to go do it, we say, go do it. That's great. And in a year or so, maybe less, you're going to need a new one. So you get a new one that looks just like the last one. And instead, we're recommending that you do it correctly the first time. But again, that's the challenge out there. There are people that say, no, I'll just spit it out and I'll get it done real quick.
Right. Because they don't understand the value.
That's right. But you're going to hold on to if you have a good logo, we'll develop a logo that lasts for 20, 30, 40 years. It's worth putting time and effort into that.
For companies out there that are just beginning the process of building a purpose-driven company, I think when we start our companies, a lot of times it's just us or we have a small team and we're very passionate and we just run from the gut at the beginning.
Yeah.
But as we scale, we have to be more intentional. So what are some strategies for those who are just starting to focus on that purpose-driven company culture? What advice would you give them as a first step?
First of all, it's a tough role to be in when you're starting that small, because I did it and I'm sure you did it too. It's really rough, and every day you wake up, you got nothing going on, you got to build momentum, and then you're exhausted at night. You go to sleep, you wake up, no momentum, you keep going. Again, my heart goes out to those folks because I lived it. I went 7 years without taking a salary, and we lived off my wife's salary, and she was customer service rep at an insurance company. So she was not, pulling in a big amount of money. But I think the big thing I would do is, in the beginning, get those clients that you have, those very few, take really great care of them, give them the personal service, learn from them what they find valuable. Like I said, what should I not change? Build on that. Ask them for help. Is there anyone else that you think could enjoy what I'm doing with you like you are? Is there anybody? I think you build slow as opposed to get the bank loan and try to scale up quickly. I'm not a big scale up quickly person when it comes to intimate relationships with customers where they need to trust you. So from my standpoint, I would turn to the customers I have, take the best care possible, learn from them, and grow to get more just like them.
As we were coming up on our time, so as we wrap up this episode, what are one or two key takeaways that you feel that are most important for the audience to remember?
Whether you're a large company or small company, avoid being commoditized. And we talk about this in my book. There's a thing we call the commodity monster, and it's the temptation to dumb down, to reduce what you're offering, to cheapen what you're doing, to look like everybody else, and it will eat you alive. My goal is for you, for everyone in the audience, to step back and be who you are, be confident, charge fairly, and do the very best you can as you help inspire the people that work with you. Stay away from the commoditization of your product and your life.
Wow, that's good advice. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Where can people find you and what do you want to share with the audience about you?
The best place to find me is either on LinkedIn, or you can find me at my website, barrylabov.com. You can click there and you can possibly get a free download of my book. You can get other very interesting documents for free, of course. And you can also connect and talk with me. I'm happy to do that. I speak with people from all over the world every few days who hear me on a podcast. So I'd love to talk to people. And if I can help you, I am here to do that.
Thank you. And generosity is part of that purpose-driven culture. So appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.